All right, take three. First rule of this channel, we do not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So welcome to the sit start grift for week 16. Hopefully this is your league semifinals, your money games. Let's see. First thing I want to talk about going into this would be the Thursday night game against the Saints and the Rams. So the idea behind this, if we're tracking certain things, it would be like, oh, the Saints play a lot of man, so we should roll out the guy who's better at man between Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup. So this idea, again, I want to be rolling my best players out, and I don't want to overthink the matchups because, again, I can draw this story, I can write this story about how all these things can occur. I don't have any control over it. So, like my best players, teams can figure out a way to have their best players win. They can also figure out ways to take away the other team's best players. That's about all I can do from a fantasy perspective is go, is this one of my best players? Are all the tea leaves trending in the right direction for me to play the guy that I'm supposed to play? Opportunity is still king. Efficiency is the queen. That's all I can really look at. So overall, from like how this game should have shook out, if we followed some of that logic, is oh, uh, the Saints play a lot of man, therefore I should play the guy who beats man. That's Cooper Cup. In half point PPR, Cooper Cup would have given you like a 8 point or 8.2 week, rolling him out there. Actually a little bit worse than that. He had a negative 3 yard rush. So like that would have been the thought process. And it means like if I'm getting cute, then I go, well, I'm going to sit my Puka Nakua shares. Well, hopefully you didn't do that because he goes out there, goes 11 targets, 9 receptions, 164 yards, a touchdown, and that's to go along with another 2 carries for 16 yards. Again, you don't have any control over what teams do on game day. All you can do is look at the other things and go, is a guy like Puka Nakua one of my best players? Well, probably he is because he's a top 10 wide receiver. I'm not going to overthink the matchup sometimes. And that's what I go into from a fantasy perspective. I always try and play my best players. I don't want to overthink anything, but beyond that, once we start getting into our threes range, like our running back threes or wide receiver threes, like that's when I have to sit there and go like, how cute do I need to get? Am I trying to chase a floor? Am I trying to chase a ceiling? And in a game like this with the Saints, you see that like the 3 touchdowns that the Saints scored, maybe some people rolled out Rashid Shaheed in that wide receiver 3 type dart range. I don't know how many people were rolling out their Jawan Johnson shares or their A.T. Perry shares when basically we had the entirety of the Saints offense healthy. So from a fantasy perspective, these touchdowns may have gone into the ether. They just didn't happen. We don't care about them. Again, besides maybe there are some cute, sharp people that rolled out Rashid Shaheed in this game overall. But that would be the idea. Like when we start looking at our semis, like the teams that got there probably aren't going to have the problem of sitting or starting some of these other guys. If I have my Saquon Barkley shares, like I probably didn't make it to the finals or the semis. That's just how it's going to roll out, unless I had picked up like a Kyron Williams to offset the fact that Barkley has either been injured or all over the place from a perspective of sits and starts and performance. So overall this week, we already talked about this on the after waivers. Weird matchups, 2 Saturday games to go along with our Sunday slate, and then 3 Monday games on Christmas. There's going to be a lot of issues when it comes to waiting on injuries and the last minute of sit starts. I know that if you're waiting on Tyreek Hill right now, you're going to have a limited ability to pivot off of him if he doesn't go. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Weather-wise, in this one, this is my third take, so everything's off the charts of where it should be. Chance of rain in Bengals Steelers, I don't think that's going to really affect that game overwhelmingly too much. Colts and Falcons, it's a dome. Seahawks and Titans, slight chance of rain showers. Slight chance of rain showers in the Redskins and the Jets. Another slight chance of rain showers in Packers and Panthers. Definite thunderstorms in the Browns and Texans game, but that's going to be a dome, so who cares? Chance of rain showers in the Jaguars and the Buccaneers. Slight chance of rain showers in the Cardinals and the Bears. Another slight chance of rain showers for the Cowboys and the Dolphins. Chance of snow for the Patriots and the Broncos. A definite rain. So this is probably one of the only ones that we're really going to be concerned with is the Raiders and the Chiefs. And a little bit of wind. For the most part, I don't really worry about wind unless it really gets like up into that like 20 or 30 mile an hour range. probably has a little bit more effect on the kickers than it does the quarterbacks. Quarterbacks can usually cut through like this amount of wind without it really being that big of a deal. And some of the quarterbacks are better at throwing deep balls regardless than other ones. So it may not be that big a difference when it comes to throwing the deeper shots. All right. So Vegas lines in this one this week. Bengals and Steelers are at 38, so that's going to be low. Bills and Chargers at 44, and that's going to be an absolute beating that they have predicted. I think it's 12 and a half by the Bills in this one. So yeah, that 44 is mostly on the Bills. Colts and Falcons at 45. This was a little surprising to me. I thought that I didn't think it was going to be this high, and that's with I think they have the Falcons predicted as the favorites. So this is a really surprising game to me from the Vegas perspective. Packers and Panthers at 37 and a half, not surprising. Browns and Texans at 40, a little surprising considering CJ Stroud's out in this one, and I don't think they only have like a 2.5 point favorite when it comes to the Browns. Seahawks and Texans at 41 and a half, not surprising. Jets and Commanders at 37, not surprising. 47 for the Lions and Vikings, that's a little surprising to me. I think this game is going to be very difficult to predict. Jaguars and Buccaneers at 42, not surprising. 50 for the Cowboys and the Dolphins. Little surprising on that one that they would have it that high and not expected that. They're basically saying that they don't expect the Cowboys defense to be a factor in that one. And that surprised me, especially with 1.5 point favorites for the Dolphins in that one. Cardinals and Bears at 43. Also not surprising. Depends on who they have as the favorites. Bears by 4. So little surprising in that one that they would have the scoring that or the Cardinals scoring that much. Patriots and Broncos at 35. That's not surprising. Raiders and Chiefs at 41. Not surprising. Giants and Eagles at 43. Ravens and 49ers at 47. Little surprising there that they're basically, this is another one where they're saying like these two defenses aren't going to matter so much. And in that one, if you're wondering, they have the Ravens or the 49ers at 6 point favorite. And then Saints and Rams, if you're wondering, was at 45 and a half overall, with the Rams being a 4 point favorite. So relatively close to what happened in that one. Let's see. Let's get in the first one. So Bengals and Steelers, I like, again, the thought process being like my best players. I don't think you have any of your best players on the Steelers, and you're in the situation that you're at. I'm just going to say that right now. If you're on the Bengals and you've gotten to this point, like Jake Browning is maybe on the table against the Steelers. Mason Rudolph, I don't think he's good. I think he's an upgrade from the toys perspective to Mitch Trubisky, but he's a downgrade from a fantasy perspective. Joe Mixon, I'm not overthinking this. Volume-based RB2. We didn't see Chase Brown eat into him too much, so yeah, I'm doing that. And again, from a theory perspective, a strategy perspective, a guy like Chase Brown, I don't want to be on my wire this week. This is one of the guys that I would be picking up and dumping some of the other guys, because if there is that injury, this guy going into a championship game is going to be like the ability for a team that was struggling at like a flex or running back 2 to have that upgrade that could win a league. All right. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, I wouldn't be rolling out if I'm expecting to win anything. There was a chance that Najee was going to miss, which would have upgraded Jalen Warren. With Najee looking like he's going in the right direction, you're chasing a touchdown with either one of these guys. So outside of like you've gotten to this point in your semis where you've just been rolling Najee or Jalen Warren out, and the rest of your lineup is really good, except for that like running back 2. That's the only way I'd be rolling out these guys, expecting that I can predict what they're going to do overall in this matchup. Jamar Chase is going to miss this game. It's going to upgrade your T. Higgins shares. If you've gotten to this point and you have T. Higgins, like, you should feel relatively happy about it. I don't know how much I'd be rolling out Tyler Boyd this week. Again, I don't know if there's enough upside to really be chasing in your semis. The dart throw to be chasing in this one with Jamar Chase out is Andre Iosivas that we've been tracking. Had the slight uptick with Jamar Chase missing part of last game with the shoulder. So that would be what I would be tracking if I'm getting cute in this offense. Steelers defense overall with my stats hasn't been particularly good. So, I could be thinking about rolling them out in this game overall, trying to catch that. You see the Steelers right there on the lower third of the league overall. So, like, Io Cevis in that wide receiver 3 range, if you're trying to catch some type of, vacated opportunities. Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, again, if I got to this point and I've been rolling these guys out, that means I have a pretty good roster around them. So yeah, I don't know if there's any predictability in either of these guys. The only one that on the outside chance I'd be taking a stab at with deeper leagues, I don't have a lot of tight ends that I could be chasing, and that would be where Freiermuth would come out there. The Bengals have a little bit of streamability because Mason Rudolph is a backup quarterback, and I wouldn't be rolling the Steelers out this week against Jake Browning. Chargers and the Bills. This one's going to be a little interesting when we get down to it from maybe getting a little too cute, but also the tea leaves are telling me. So Josh Allen, I'm not overthinking it. Easton Stick, I'm not probably going to try and chase the garbage time that he had last week against the Raiders. James Cook, from an overall usage standpoint, if we throw out the snap share, just the opportunities, he's probably maybe a low end running back one, definitely a high end running back two. And if we're chasing the fact that the Bills' offense may be run based at this point, especially because the Chargers are bad. This is one of the things that we've been talking about all year. The Chargers are bad on defense. So when we look at overall, the Chargers are middle of the road when it comes to the running game, and when it comes to the passing game, they are the third worst. So trying to predict how the Bills' offense is going to function in this one is going to be very difficult. They could lean on the running game because the Chargers are bad. They could throw it all over the yard because the Chargers are bad. So, but beyond that, like when we get into it, it's going to be very difficult. The only guy that I really feel good about rolling is James Cook. Austin Eckler, if you got there with Austin Eckler, all you're chasing is the volume, and that wasn't even there last week. Maybe in some deeper leagues, Isaiah Spiller is going to have a little bit of sneaky appeal as a volume-based guy. The Chargers are going to want to see what they have. Austin Eckler ain't going to be back next year. Besides that, so like maybe there's that. Maybe you're going to stash an Isaiah Spiller on your bench. Stephon Diggs. If I'm in my finals and I've been rolling Stephon Diggs, I'm probably not going to overthink this. Otherwise, like, there is a possibility of a predictive bench, because if they stay with that volume-based attack, the guy that you're probably going to want to go after is the guy who was on the field, Gabe Davis. Otherwise, like, it is a definite downgrade to Stephon Diggs. So, but I don't know how good your roster would be that you could bench a Stephon Diggs and have an upgrade at wide receiver, short of like hitting on, say, like a Puka Nacua or a Michael Pittman in your draft, later on. So overall, like, that would be how I roll. There again, a little bit of value in Gabe Davis trying to chase that. The idea that if they stay a volume-based running offense, Gabe Davis would have appeal as that dart throw wide receiver 3. Josh Palmer, I probably wouldn't be chasing in this one, outside of expecting to maybe get some garbage time in the second half. There is a little sneaky appeal in Quentin Johnston being an upside play because of wanting to see what they're going to get from a volume-based usage in this Buffalo game that does project to be a blowout by the Bills. Keenan Allen is going to be ruled out. I'm not going to be rolling Dalton Kincaid. He is the pass receiver in an offense that is trending towards being run heavy. So the guy that, if I had to throw a dart out there, it would be Dawson Knox in this one. Gerald Everett, again, chasing those 8 targets in a bad offense, going against the team that is probably going to not be using him very much. I don't know how much I'd be interested in that. Hopefully you guys hear that train horn. Buffalo Bills are one of the better defenses matchups this week, and I wouldn't be touching the Chargers with my opponent's roster. Let's see. Colts and Falcons. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult to predict overall, again, because the Falcons are going to play slow, and they're going to play, they're going to play very conservatively. So Gardner Minshew is going to be probably a very low end streamer when it comes to trying to chase where we're going to get our points from outside of, he's not going to be the focal point of the offense this week. It does look like it's going to be Jonathan Taylor. He is trending towards being back this week. So that's going to downgrade Gardner Minshew in this one. Tyler Heineke can be a little bit of a turnover machine. Colts defense has been playing better. That's the way I would look at that. Jonathan Taylor, I would be a little bit looking at if Zach Moss is active. If Zach Moss is active, I could definitely see this being a running back by committee. If Zach Moss is out, then I could definitely see it being full wheels up for Jonathan Taylor week. Bijan, again, he's going to be very volatile. If you drafted your Bijan shares and you still have them, you're chasing the potential of that opportunity. The reason why I have Cordero Patterson up and Tyler Algier is they're going to eat into whatever floor he theoretically could have, and also whatever ceiling. See, Cordero Patterson vultured that touchdown last week. Michael Pittman is trending towards playing with a shoulder and not a concussion. So if he does magically go out, your dart throws are Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, and even DJ Montgomery. I would probably lean towards Alec Pierce with Michael Pittman out. And again, with the negative overall script that we're going to be looking at, or negative from a fantasy perspective, this uglier, slower type of game, I think it's going to eliminate all these wide receivers from getting home from a volume standpoint. Like they're going to have to be very efficient and trying to predict who's going to get the touchdown in that one. Drake London, again, if you drafted your Drake London shares and you got here, I don't know how much you did it with him in the lineup. But again, like he's going to be in that boom bust wide receiver 3 type of range. Kyle Pitts is going to be a boom bust tight end 1. And again, he's going to be one of the more safer plays when it comes to the Atlanta offense, just because he plays tight end. Colts are a good role. Falcons are an okay role against Gardner Minshew. There are probably other ones that I would be trying to chase the upside on, like the Colts. All right. Seattle and the Titans. Geno Smith is trending towards starting. There was some talk it was going to be Drew Lock. Now it looks like it's going to be Geno Smith. I don't know if that necessarily changes anything in this game overall. Will Levis is trending towards playing with a high ankle sprain. This gets a little dicey when it comes to Tannehill versus Levis. Probably has a little bit more upside with Levis in this one than it does Tannehill. Overall, what we know what we're going to get from Tannehill, what we think we could get from Levis, but the downside of the ankle, I don't know how much Ryan Tannehill really could keep everything else on track at this point overall. So like I would be downgrading everybody if Tannehill plays, and Levis, I don't love it regardless, but I think it's a slightly better upside for the toys. I wouldn't be rolling them out as quarterbacks though. Kenneth Walker is trending towards playing. Charbonnet doesn't matter. I'm not going to roll him out. Derrick Henry is still going to be in that volume-based RB2 type of range. Tajay Spears is another guy that I would not want to have on my wire going into the championship and potentially seeing him on my opponent's roster. Let's see. DK Metcalf, he's going to have the greatest range of outcomes when it comes to these wide receivers. He does have a little bit of a floor, mostly a ceiling play. Tyler Lockett is going to have an absolute, zero floor and is going to have a ridiculous ceiling. Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be the safe play out of these 3 guys. DeAndre Hopkins, again, volume-based play in this offense. And then Treylon Burks is going to be the wide receiver 3 dart throw. Seattle's defense has been very inconsistent. He's trending in the right direction from that concussion, up to 76% snaps, 3 for 3 for 62. So again, if I'm throwing a dart, this would be the guy that one of the guys that I would be looking at when Sunday night rolls around, being able to say, hey, we could predict this. Seattle's defense, I think overall they're a relatively good role against whether or not it's Levis or Tannehill. But again, because of how inconsistent they've been, I don't know what to expect from a range of outcomes. The Titans are a relatively good play overall, because this is probably going to be an uglier game. Geno Smith and Drew Lock are kind of turnover machines, and the Seattle Seahawks, have been inconsistent. All right, Vikings and Lions. So this one's going to be one of the ones that are going to be all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and say it again. Like Jared Goff is going to have a really hard road to win because, he has a running game, 2 running backs, and they just may not have to turn this into a higher volume passing offense. And he's got very limited rushing floor. So, you're looking at his range of outcomes, especially based off the matchup, going off of week 14, where, he had 161 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and then follow that up against what looked like an okay matchup where he did 5 touchdown passes. Again, very going to be unpredictable if you're rolling out your Jared Goff shares. You know what your 2 ranges of outcomes can be because of the last 2 weeks. Nick Mullins is probably going to have a little bit better floor and ceiling. He's going to be a safer play. I don't think he necessarily has a high ceiling, but I think he definitely, with all the toys, 10 points probably his floor. In this one, the Vikings tend to take away the running game, and then they're going to blitz. And that's just kind of how they roll. You see their top 5 rushing defense, and then they're just going to come home and they're going to blitz. And that's what we can expect in this game. That's part of the reason why I say, I don't know how much we can predict Jared Goff in this one. I would generally trend away from David Montgomery in this script. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, potentially because he's going to have a better overall passing floor when it comes to what we're going to be looking for. And then because if they're just going to take away the middle of the box, that speed to the edges is something that I could look at with Jahmyr Gibbs. Going to have a better floor this week. Not that I'd be benching David Montgomery as a running back too. I'm just saying that if I had to choose between the two of them, I would lean towards Gibbs. Ty Chandler, not a lot of news on whether or not Alexander Madison is going to be playing. I think that we can kind of bank on Ty Chandler being in that running back 2 usage, potentially with a better floor because, again, the passing work, than even if Alexander Madison's healthy. I would not be rolling out Alexander Madison if he is active. The only guy it really matters with is Ty Chandler overall. And what I would guess would be an okay matchup. The Lions defense has been okay against the run overall on the season, but that's partially not what I'd be looking at when it comes to Ty Chandler. It's his use in the passing game, and then that there are good toys so the offense can have multiple scoring opportunities. That would be why he would have more value. So that's why I'd be rolling him out. And especially, you probably didn't spend a lot of capital on Ty Chandler from a draft perspective. If you got him, you probably picked him up off the wire. So you're rolling him as either a running back 2, which is where he should be ranked as, or as a flex where you're going to have probably a positional advantage over your opponents. I'm not going to overthink the Sun God, even though I do think he's a wide receiver 2 for the rest of the year based off of the weapons that are in the offense. Jameson Williams is going to be a dart throw. Again, this is a team that's going to blitz a lot, so he can just get home on one pass and potentially win you a week. So with the snap share going up, the opportunities going up, and relatively good matchups, here's another one that I probably one of the ones that I would feel better about him getting home this week based off the matchup. And then on Sunday night being able to sit there and go see, I told you so. Justin Jefferson, I think, slight downgrade because of the quarterback situation overall. Jordan Addison is going to be back on the table as a high-end 3, low-end 2. What we basically thought he was going to be coming out of the draft when it comes to getting the targets when teams want to take away Justin Jefferson. So when we go back to that Sunday night game with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, that's why they went out and they got him, is when teams want to get cute and say, hey, you can't win, or we're not going to let Justin Jefferson beat us. Jordan Addison, it was not predictive last week against the Bengals overall because we didn't know what we were going to get in Nick Mullins. Now that we know what we have in Nick Mullins, he's going to be on that table. He's still going to be very volatile overall, but I would be rolling out my Jordan Addison shares if I still have him. Laporta is going to be a boom bust tight end. Overall, there's only going to be so many touchdown opportunities. They're not going to score 7 or 6 touchdowns in a week. I would not be chasing the 3 touchdowns overall, but he is going to be a league winner at the end of the season when it comes to the teams that were able to get into the playoffs. So I'm not going to overthink it. Slight downgrade the team TJ Hawkinson because of Nick Mullins. But again, I think this is going to be a very difficult matchup. The Lions defense is not particularly good. And the part of the reason why this game is going to be very difficult to predict is if the Vikings can turn this into a shootout, then there are more fantasy points on the table. If this is an uglier game script because the Vikings defense is able to play better and overall both teams are sluggish, then there's going to be less overall points to be had. So it's going to be very unpredictable. So outside of the fact that TJ Hawkinson is going to be a good tight end play because he plays tight end, it's going to be very difficult to know for certain with any relative certainty how any of these other guys are going to shake out. The Detroit Lions defense is going to be a relatively good play because Nick Mullins is a backup, and the Vikings are going to have one of the greatest ranges of outcomes when it comes to overall what's going to happen at the end of the week. I definitely could see them being a bottom third defense this week, and I could also see them being a league winner. The Jets and the Redskins. Hopefully, you're not rolling anything out in this game, and we'll talk about why. So, Sam Howell, I would not be playing in this game, partially because I don't even necessarily think he's going to make it all the way through unless he plays well. And this is a bad matchup with the defense. So, Jacoby Brissett came in last week, played the fourth quarter through 2 touchdown passes. I definitely could see that happening again this week. Zach Wilson's not going to play. He would have been like my top streamer. Could miss multiple games now. Trevor Siemian, I think, is like serviceable at best. So it does keep Garrett Wilson on the table. I don't even think I pulled Garrett Wilson up, but it does keep Garrett Wilson on the table as a volume-based wide receiver 2 in this matchup overall. That is theoretically very good on paper against like the worst defense in football. And again, that's me not being hyperbolic. That's the Washington Commanders passing defense. They're the worst. So yeah, I theoretically, I could be okay rolling out Garrett Wilson. Brian Robinson is out with a hamstring. I'm going to expect Chris Rodriguez to get about 30 to 50% of the snap share. And if you're rolling out Chris Rodriguez, you're expecting him to fall into the end zone against the Jets. Antonio Gibson is going to be an okay fringe running back 2. But again, that's partially you're just going to be chasing the receiving work as a floor. Breece Hall is going to have this massive range of outcomes because of how bad the offense has been. If you drafted Breece Hall and you've gotten to where you've gotten, he probably wasn't the reason behind it, and I would just be chasing the upside. I would not be chasing any of the Redskins wide receivers, and that's primarily based off of I just don't know who's going to be playing and how much between Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett. McLaurin would be the volume-based play. You're chasing the touchdowns with Curtis Samuel, and those would only be the only 2 guys I'd be looking for. Like I said, when it comes to Garrett Wilson, I must have cleared him out on a different take. I do think that he's an okay mid-range to high-end wide receiver 2 based off the matchup. And then defensively, the Jets are going to probably be in that 40-degree day or better range, and I'm not going to be rolling out the Redskins, so I'm not going to overthink it. So, yeah. Green Bay and the Panthers. So Jordan Love, if he's my starting quarterback, I didn't spend a lot of capital on him. I am going to have a limited opportunity for him to put up passing work this week. And this is one of those ones where stats lie. I've talked about this before. The Panthers offense has been so bad that teams don't pass on them because they can run on the Panthers. So like it's really weird how teams beat the Panthers because they're just like, we don't have to do a lot because you're really bad. So again, going to be limited opportunity for Jordan Love to get home. There's not going to be a lot of passing volume. You're chasing the passing touchdowns. That's how he's going to get home in this one. It's going to be ugly, but I haven't needed him to be my starting or this high end elite quarterback because I probably didn't spend the capital on him. Unless I have a better quarterback that I've been able to pair him with in a better matchup, I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to take my 40-degree day, sub 40-degree day, and allow the other capital that I spent to win me my league. Bryce Young, I'm not going to worry about. Aaron Jones, if you got this far and you drafted Aaron Jones, you probably have other guys on your roster that have got you there. This would be an okay matchup to go chase Aaron Jones, especially with Christian Watson being out. That means the vacated targets tend to go to running backs. I could definitely see it going to Aaron Jones. And again, teams tend not to throw on the Panthers because they're so bad. So the guy that I could definitely see getting home in the touchdown department would be the running game. A.J. Dillon is trending in the right direction. If you're into that type of thing, Chuba Hubbard is going to be a volume-based running back to limited opportunity to score touchdowns in this offense. Romeo Doubs is probably off the table at this point, expecting him to get those vacated targets from Christian Watson. The guy that we're kind of expecting that to happen with is Dontavian Wicks. I do think he's going to be a boom bust 3. The safer play in this one's going to be Jaden Reed based off of opportunity, and he does get red zone work. I'm not going to be chasing my Adam Thielen shares or Jonathan Mingo. When it comes to wide receiver 3s, I think there are guys that have greater upside. That's the main reason behind it. Tucker Croft is going to be that low to mid-range tight end one. Probably going to be the guy out of all the Packers toys that I would feel best chasing, and that's because he plays tight ends, and tight ends can generally not hurt me. Packers are going to be a relatively good roll, even though they're going to have a cap ceiling more than likely because they just really haven't had a lot of ceiling to begin with. And I'm going to say no to the Panthers defense in any particular shape or form. Texans and Cleveland. This was another one that's going to be an interesting one to try and predict. So overall, with CJ Stroud being out and Joe Flacco as the quarterback in this game, I could generally see that both teams are going to play conservatively. Both of them are in the playoff picture. Cleveland controls their own destiny. I think Houston's on the outside looking in. So the way I could definitely see that Houston wants to play is not have Case Keenum lose them the game. And Cleveland's going to be the same way. They just don't want Joe Flacco to lose them the game. So I don't see that Joe Flacco having another 40 passing attempts. I could definitely see him having I definitely could see it being more likely that he's going to have under 20 attempts than he's going to have 40 attempts in this game. But you factor that in however you want, and that means he's going to have limited opportunity to throw passing touchdowns, and he's going to have almost zero rushing work. So CJ Stroud's out again. Case Keenum, not going to chase that. I do think he relatively is going to be flirting with a 40-degree day in this one. Again, he's a relatively good game manager in this one. I want to make sure. I think I remember him having a very good season with the Vikings, and he did. So I could definitely see him being able to keep your toys fantasy relevant in this one. Jerome Ford is going to be flirting with that running back too, just because he's going to get that receiving work. If you're rolling out Kareem Hunt, you're trying to chase rushing touchdowns in a game where I don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring. Devin Singletary is going to be very close to a running back one from a usage standpoint. That's what we're chasing. Dameon Pierce was down to 5% snaps last week, so I could definitely see him getting, again, about 75% of the work. Even if it's a limited overall scoring, going to have the receiving work, it looks like at this point, so I would stick with that and not overthink it. Amari Cooper, probably going to be that wide receiver 2 range. He may be the number 2 option in this offense, but I'm not going to overthink this too much when it comes to what else am I going to be rolling out there. Cedric Tillman is going to be on the table as a boom bust wide receiver 3. Something that we thought was off the table after week 14 is back on the table after week 15. 72% snaps, 8 for 4. So again, how are they going to get home for Cleveland? Trying to guess, like if I have a dart throw, Cedric Tillman is just a guy in deeper leagues that I would be thinking about. Nico College is trending in the right direction overall. Boom bust 3. I didn't spend a lot of capital on it. If he's available, I'm going to be rolling him out. More likely, I would be rolling him out as a 2 or in my flex or a 3. So again, I feel pretty happy if he is available, even in a negative matchup. Noah Brown is going to be on the table regardless of whether or not Nico Collins is available. Either he's going to get the targets if the Browns take away Collins, or he's going to get the targets because he's the only guy available in this passing offense. Njoku, I'm not overthinking this. Trending in the right direction from a tight end perspective. Dalton Schultz is going to definitely be on the table because he plays tight end and he may be the number 2 option in this offense. All right, Cleveland Browns defense are a pretty strong role against a backup quarterback. And the Texans are going to have some appeal going up against 38-year-old Joe Flacco in a conservative script game. Buccaneers and Jaguars. So the Buccaneers are the second worst passing defense in football, and stats lie, and I will always point that out, but they are the second worst, and that's what we're going to be looking at primarily in this game. So I would feel very good about rolling Trevor Lawrence out in this game if he's healthy with a concussion and an ankle. But if CJ Beathard is available and I'm streaming, CJ Beathard, even in one quarterback leagues, is going to be a guy that I would go after. And like I said, he was pretty good in this brief stint with the 49ers. He has some serviceability. I'm not going to overthink it. Can be a little bit of a turnover machine, but hey, it's a really good matchup from a fantasy perspective. I don't care if he's bad. I just care if has high passing volume and he scores touchdowns. Baker May, again, if I'm chasing the 381 and 4 touchdowns, relatively okay matchup overall. When we look at the Jaguars defense, they are the number 4 worst in the league. So I would be rolling out my Baker May shares in this one. ETN bothers me a little bit, but what am I going to do? I spent on him. Downgrade overall, but again, I'm rolling him out. Dearness Johnson is a guy that I don't really want to have on my waiver wire going into the finals with ETN going down. Might have an RB1 workload. All right, Rachaad White is going to be a league winner. I'm not going to overthink that. Calvin Ridley is going to stay in that wide receiver 3 boom bust range, regardless of whether or not Zay Jones is healthy. Um, Patrick Washington and Tim Jones would be the dart throws, regardless of Zay Jones being healthy in this offense going up against the Buccaneers. Mike Evans, not going to overthink it. Definitely going to put Chris Godwin on the table, may even elevate him to wide receiver 2 status based on the matchup. Evan Ingram, again, if we're chasing those vacated targets with Zay Jones being out, could be Travis Etienne, could be Evan Ingram. Again, he's a tight end, can't hurt me. I like rolling him out. And Cade Otton, if you're rolling out your Cade Otton shares, it would be based primarily off of the opportunity of the snap share. Jaguars would be an okay matchup against Baker Mayfield. Buccaneers would be an okay matchup against CJ Beathard. Bears and Cardinals. This is an interesting one. So Kyler Murray, overall, the Bears have been trending in the right direction since the Bears went out and they traded for Montez Sweat from the Redskins. So right now, I would be trending towards saying Kyler Murray is a sit if you can get away with it. Justin Fields is probably one of the better options when it comes overall to what we're going to be looking at. And again, Justin Fields is a unicorn, but again, this is a high vol or one of the worst rushing defenses in football, second worst. And then it doesn't even matter overall how good they are in the passing game, because we really just want the rushing work from Justin Fields. So that's what we're kind of looking at, rolling him out. James Conner, again, this is not a particularly good matchup for him. You're chasing that rushing touchdown. But again, the last 2 weeks when I said that I don't really want to be chasing him falling in the end zone, he fell in the end zone. So again, versus what you probably paid to get James Conner, I wouldn't overthink that if I can get away with it, if I don't have like better guys around me. From the Bears perspective, Deontay Foreman is questionable. And the only way that any of these guys are going to have any appeal as a dart throw would be if one of them is inactive. Right now, that would be trending towards Deontay Foreman. And Roschon would probably be the guy that I would be trending towards over Khalil Herbert. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown out with a heel. Michael Wilson's going to have some appeal when it comes to boom bust wide receiver 3. I would not be chasing Rondell Moore or Greg Dortch, even from a perspective of vacated targets, because I just don't think they're going to have the high enough ability to win me my week. DJ Moore, probably low end wide receiver 1 based off the matchup. Trey McBride is a unicorn. This is one of the things I was talking about with him is even as a flex, there's going to be a lot of appeal to Trey McBride. He's going to have somewhere between like probably 8 and 12 targets, and it doesn't matter if he's a tight end or not. Like that's just too much opportunity to be pivoting off of overall. And on the outside chance you have Trey McBride versus Travis Kelce, I would probably say that he trends towards being a better play than Travis Kelce. Cole Kmet is going to be a boom bust tight end 1 based off the matchup. And overall, expect him that there's a good chance he's going to get home on a touchdown. Cardinals defense, bad. Bears defense is going to be one of the better streaming options against Arizona. So Kyler Murray has not been particularly good at football, so we're not expecting a high passing volume. Maybe he beats us a little bit on the ground overall, and then there isn't going to be a lot of rushing work. The other thing with the Cardinals, and I would say this with the James Conner being rolled out, is if this is a blowout, and I would trend towards in the direction of it being a blowout, I could definitely see that Michael Carter and DeMarcado are going to get a lot of the second half work. So yeah, you're trying to guess that he's going to be able to get home in the first half. That would be kind of my take on this. So if I have the ability to pivot off of James Conner, I might think about doing that. If I don't, I would feel relatively safe not pivoting in my semis. I don't want to overthink it. All right, Dolphins and Cowboys. Tyreek Hill right now is trending towards playing questionable. Don't know what that means. This is something to think about. Dak Prescott, I probably didn't spend on him. I'm not going to overthink it. Is going to have a wide range of outcomes based off of last week, but this is going to project towards being a shootout. As a middle of the road estimate, this is going to be a shootout, even against the Cowboys defense. So I can imagine he's going to be able to get me home on a 40-degree day. Tua, it would have been a predictive bench. Right now, I'd be trending towards playing him unless I have a better quarterback with a better matchup. He did have a relatively good showing against the Jets. Even from a fantasy perspective, it's not good. And again, this is something I'd be monitoring. I'd have to have the ability to pivot to someone better. I would be waiting. If Tyreek Hill is a go, that's going to make me feel a lot better about rolling out Tua. But overall, This is a later start game. When I looked it up, this is a late Monday game. So trying to wait on this game if I don't have the ability, like my other options would be Mahomes or Hurts, Purdy, Lamar Jackson. I don't know how many people in the league were rolling Tua as their quarterback one with these guys available. So if you're going to pivot off Tua, you're either going to have to pivot early, or you're going to be left with like AOC, Tommy DeVito, Russell Wilson was maybe your best streaming option in this one. We'll talk about him here in a second. So overall, that would be what I'd be looking at. Tony Pollard, again, may not be a running back one, going to be disappointing, going to have the volume to go in what would be an okay to good matchup. Rico Dowdle is going to have some appeal as a low end two. He is trending towards playing with the ability to fall into an end zone. He's another guy that I would not want to have on the wire if he is available. Again, trying to get my roster ready for the championship. I want to have my streamers available. I want to have my my cuffs. All cuffs should be rostered at this point, and I want to have my streaming defenses. So a guy like this, like I want to make sure, like a wide receiver 3 that I'm not really worried about being rolled against me. I would rather have a guy like Rico Dowdle on my roster in case there's an injury. Raheem Mostert is probably going to be in that wide receiver or running back 2 range, expecting him to fall in the end zone. I think there's a good chance based off his usage, 20 total touchdowns. I'm not going to get cute. Devin A-Chain is a guy, like he's probably the better overall play when it comes to a floor with the receiving work that he's likely going to get in this one, and he's trending in the right direction towards playing green light, as you can see on Sleeper. CeeDee Lamb, not going to overthink. Brandon Cooks, this does project as a shootout. You're looking at probably like somewhere in the line of 4 to 8 targets in this one, and they could be of the higher productivity type of ones. I would be rolling him out either as a 2 or a 3. Jalen Warren or Jalen Waddle, not going to overthink it. He definitely gets the upgrade with Tyreek Hill out. Even if Hill is active, I definitely see that Hill is going to be the decoy for Jalen Waddle. So I really like Jalen Waddle in this one. The Cowboys defense, they look better on paper from a fantasy perspective because of the sacks and the turnovers than they do from actually stopping people in real life land. That's one of the things that, again, stats tend to lie, and that's because they can really put pressure on teams overall in a lot of different ways. So again, Carolina, the Cowboys defense is just as good as the Carolina Panthers secondary is from a statistical perspective. That makes sense. So if Tyreek Hill is out, the dart throw becomes Cedric Wilson, 77% snaps in this one. Jake Ferguson, he's going to be that mid-range tight end one because he's the number 2 in this offense, and it's a good offense. Dallas Cowboys defense, obviously I'm rolling them out. They're going to have a ridiculous range of outcomes because of the matchup, but they could also definitely, I could see them still being the defense one on the week. The Cowboy or the Dolphins defense, they have been playing better from a fantasy perspective. That's all we care about. And after last week, I would feel a lot better about rolling them out against the Cowboys. Probably want to avoid everybody in this game, maybe with the exception of Jerry Jeudy. This is the Broncos and the Patriots. So Bailey Zappi, absolutely not. Russell Wilson is going to have some low-end appeal as a starter based off of the rushing work that he can put in. He can score a touchdown any given week on the ground. Ramondre's out. You're looking at full go volume-based RB2 and a bad offense. Zeke again. So again, range of outcomes is probably going to be somewhere between week 15 and week 14. Limited opportunity to score touchdowns. Javonte still going to be in that RB2 type of range against the Patriots. I'm not going to overthink it, especially because of capital I probably spent. Maybe a predictive bench against Cortland Sutton. Probably haven't been rolling him out as a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2. You've probably been rolling him out as your flex. Maybe you don't get cute on this one. Patriots do tend to take away the number 1 option. This would mean that I would trend towards saying Jerry Jeudy does have a predictive outcome to be a top 20 wide receiver this week. Hunter Henry is the number 1 in the offense. All number 1s in all offenses have fantasy value. He does play tight end if you're into that type of thing. All right, Pat's defense against the Broncos does have some appeal, and the Broncos defense against the Patriots also has some appeal. Probably more along the lines for both these as safer plays. Chiefs and Raiders. So this is another one of those games that are going to be very difficult to predict overall. The Raiders have been playing better, and the Chiefs have been inconsistent. So Aiden O'Connell is going to be, I would even go as far as to say maybe a low-end streamer. in this one. Patrick Mahomes, this would be one where I wouldn't be getting cute. I don't think he's got a lot of upside in this game, especially because I don't think the Raiders are going to turn this into a track meet or anything. But I wouldn't be getting cute this week, unlike last week where we got a little cute with the New England. I don't know how many good matchups there are from a quarterback perspective, from a streamability. That's part of what made last week interesting, is being able to predict the quarterbacks that are going to potentially have good weeks. And this week, I think it's a little bit tougher to find guys to get home. Maybe your Jake Brownings if you're really desperate. Other than that, like I think your best bet is CJ Beathard. But again, like I'm probably not getting cute with Patrick Mahomes this week. I'm just going to roll him out. Josh Jacobs is trending in the right direction. Zamir White, again, until Josh Jacobs gets the go, Zamir White might be on the table as our RB2. He's still going to have value as the cuff going into the championship week if you have him on your roster. Isaiah Pacheco is trending in the right direction. Again, high end too, flirting with being an RB1. Clyde missed with a personal day, whatever that means. Jerick McKinnon is trending in the wrong direction, so we could get a Deneric Prince week. This is probably more from a dynasty perspective if you're worried about that type of thing. Deontay, or actually, I'll take that back. So there is a road right now for Generic Prince to be a fantasy winner in the championship if he's technically the cuff to Isaiah Pacheco. I should just point that out going forward. Devontae Adams is going to be a wide receiver 2. Not going to overthink that. Volume based. I don't know how much I'd be trusting Jacoby Myers in this one in my semis. Trey Tucker overall is going to have some appeal as a wide receiver 3 dart throw. This was a guy that we were tracking earlier in the season with the uptick, and he finally got home against the Chargers. This would be potentially a matchup against KC where if you're throwing darts, I think there are better darts to be throwing, but he would be a dart throw in deeper leagues. Rashee Rice, probably a wide receiver 1 at this point, probably the number 1 option in this one, is going to probably be a league winner at this point. Not going to overthink this one. Michael Mayer missed with a toe. Probably doesn't have a lot of effect in most redraft leagues, is something to be following. Travis Kelce is supposedly dealing with a neck injury. So outside of maybe your ability to have like a Trey McBride that we talked about before, maybe a guy to be pivoting off of, at least having my expectations as high as they should be. Probably no longer unicorn, probably in that mid-range tight end type of land. With the inconsistency of the offense and the age and now the injury, I think that probably with Rashee Rice is, again, he's the number 2, not a good offense. That's kind of what you're looking at with Travis Kelce. Raiders defense might be sneaky play, inconsistency of the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are probably a good solid play this week against the Raiders and the rookie quarterback. All right. Eagles and Giants. So let's start off with Tommy DeVito. Does have some sneaky appeal against the Eagles. Eagles defense is a bottom 5 defense in the passing game. So this is going to put some appeal on a lot of guys. So I'm not going to say you should go out and you should roll your Tommy DeVito shares, but the tea leaves say this is not a bad week to be rolling him out. Jalen Hurts, turnover machine, scoring machine, or touchdown scoring machine. Not going to overthink it in this matchup. Saquon Barkley. This was one of the things, like if we're following the stats, I'm not going to be if you've gotten there with Saquon Barkley, I'm not going to be getting cute with him overall. But the Eagles defense does shut down the passing or the running game. So where Barkley would overall have his value would be the passing game. This is a Swift week. If you're wondering about that, if you're worried about him overall, you can see that the Giants are 4th worst in the running game. So this would be a relatively good week to try and get home with your Swift shares. If you're throwing a dart throw for the Giants, it would be Darius Slayton, 95% snaps, 8 targets last week that you're chasing. AJ Brown. So Deonta Smith is trending in the wrong direction when it comes to a knee. I do think that what that does is it will consolidate the targets to A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. So if you have Dallas Goedert, this would upgrade him a lot. And then the other biggest thing when it comes to this game, Darren Waller, he's probably the number 1 in this offense. I would expect the snap share to go up. This is a good matchup against the Eagles, so I would be rolling him out there feeling pretty good. Giants are a sneaky appeal against a turnover machine, and the Eagles are going to be a relatively good play against Tommy DeVito and the Giants. Finally, to finish this off, we have the 49ers and the Ravens. So I'm not going to overthink this with Lamar Jackson. It theoretically is a predictive bench, But I think the biggest reason why I would continue to roll him out is the Keaton Mitchell injury. Means that there is vacated opportunities on the ground. Lamar Jackson was already basically the starting running back. I think that his rushing floor keeps him as a quarterback one, regardless of the matchup. Brock Purdy's another interesting one. I do think that he's probably going to give you a 40-degree days based off the toys, but this would be another one that if you're being cute and you're looking at a predictive bench, this would be the week. Already talked about Keaton Mitchell's injury. If you've been rolling Gus Bus out as like a running back two, I would just stick with it. Those vacated opportunities have to go someplace. Even though I think they're more likely to go to Lamar Jackson, he has been able to get you home on a number of weeks just falling into the end zone. Justice Hill, I don't think there's a lot of appeal to him if you're chasing the vacated opportunities from Keaton Mitchell because Melvin Gordon is not going to play special teams. Christian McCaffrey is going to be elite, so he's a unicorn, don't care. Elijah Mitchell still is trending towards not playing. That would mean that theoretically Jordan Mason is the cuff. But we've talked about this before. I don't know if I really would be interested in that. Zay Flowers, whatever foot injury he was dealing with, he's good to go. He's technically the number 2 in this offense, I think, behind Isaiah Likely, but he would be the one wide receiver outside of the one wide receiver that I would be okay rolling out in this one as like a wide receiver 3. Odell Beckham and Rashad Bateman are dart throws because if San Francisco has a weakness, it's the passing games to the edges. And then, but be advised, like Nelson Algalore is probably the de facto number 2 when it comes to snap share. All right, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, I'm not going to overthink it. They could burn me. I'm going to be rolling them out in this one. The guy that I definitely could see getting home is George Kittle. And then Isaiah Likely. The one downside to Isaiah Likely, I think, is a good matchup. You're looking at Fred Warner in the middle of the San Francisco defense, but he would be the number 1 guy outside of, if I had to rank the guys that I felt best playing this week from a predictive standpoint for Baltimore versus the 49ers, Isaiah Likely would be 1, Jackson would be 2, and then Zay Flowers would be 3, Gus Edwards 4. All right, finishing this off, Ravens and 49ers. This would be good weeks to be streaming around them, but I also wouldn't be getting cute and overthinking it. They're probably both going to give me about a 40-degree day because they're good. And I believe that's about it. And then for you guys that were wondering out there about talking about kickers, the two ideas about this would be good offenses playing not good defenses, and then 2 okay offenses playing okay defenses, so the drive stall. So again, probably would have been rolling maybe both these kickers out in the New Orleans Rams game. Overall, the Buffalo kicker, Bass would be a good one in this one if he's available. I don't know how much I would predict the outcome of the Colts and Ravens game. Seattle and Tennessee, I don't know how much I'd be comfortable in that one. I don't know how comfortable Detroit and Minnesota are not good predictive matchups. New York and Washington, not good. Green Bay and Carolina, not good. The Browns kicker against Houston, I would like this one. All Joe Flacco has to be is average, and they're going to have scoring opportunities. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be good scoring opportunities. Jacksonville and Tampa Bay, both not good defenses, so I think both kickers are in play this week. Overall, let's see. Raiders, Kansas City, no. So yeah, that would be about it overall if I was going to be trying to guess anybody. Maybe the Giants kicker against Philadelphia. Philadelphia doesn't have a good passing defense, so I could definitely see that New York's going to get into the field goal range. So the Giants kicker, both the kickers in the Jacksonville Tampa Bay game, and the Browns kicker would be my streamers of the week. All right, so that's about it. Let's see, 53 minutes, and I hope you guys make it to your finals.